Hi. It's just another daily update. I'm sitting in my garden, listening to birds chirp, sitting in my favorite chair, and talking to Hopi, ancient indigenous beings. I straight out had a moment yesterday where I almost stopped channeling for you altogether and threw in the towel. I got invited to a small but beautiful group of, I'd call them teachers, but they would say not so much. I'd call them thought leaders, but they'd say not so much. I'd call them enlightened beings, but they'd say enlightenment doesn't exist because there's no body to be enlightened. They think that you and I don't exist either. They think that thoughts are just contrived beliefs and that we are actually beliefs, not actual bodies and minds. I find that all of it is, quite frankly, a rather nihilistic belief system. And it was very discouraging. And I felt so much love in and around them and amongst them as well. They were so happy. And on this incredibly beautiful cloud that I remember, when remembering who I am, I remember being on that cloud. And I remember coming out with my white sun and my hair wrapped and just sitting in the sun. And do you guys remember that? And I channeled oneness, and I kind of sat still. No thoughts, no body, no fears, no hopes. No, it was just this nothingness I can't even do it justice with any words, really. And I can't even, the words still escape me to this very day. And then those of you who've been my students for several years now brought me back to reality of the fact that Earth really, really suffers. And when you go to an enlightened group or an enlightened being and they say, well, why are you suffering? Pain isn't real. Why are you upset? You're not a body. You're not a mind. You guys brought me down off that cloud real fast. As a single mother of 4, I had to come off that cloud real fast because it's very interesting because I was called in this group that I experienced for the past few days until I left it. This little group of teachers and masters, beautiful people, by the way, lovely people. But I was called a purveyor of lies. I'm like, hello, I'm human. I still have feelings. I'm like, what does that even mean? Oh, because you're a psychic, you're a channel. You talk about problems that don't exist. It's not real. You're not real. These thoughts that cause this unreal suffering is not real. Teachers, spiritual teachers are purveyors of lies, allegedly, in this group. And I had to leave because it felt like they were denouncing your karmic path of the suffering that you are currently working so hard to release. And whether it's real or not, it's obvious in oneness teachings that, for one, there needs to be another. Some people will say oneness teachings aren't even real because that implies there's an other. So there was all these verbal semantics of, why I shouldn't write books and make money off of it. And it wasn't said directly, but it was very insinuated. Why I shouldn't teach people or help the world. And it's just not where you are. Teachers, psychics, and students and clients of teachers and psychics and channels. Where you are is you're in the midst of realizing what's real and what isn't, and you still hurt. Psychics, channels, spiritual teachers, that's what I do. I train you to be on the front lines of suffering. My neighbors out here have decided that it's electric saw time. I might have to move. Right when I said the word suffering, there's no accidents in this world, right? And I enjoyed my brief stint inside of this very enlightened group of beings, but also I couldn't help but wonder, is it just straight up nihilism? Just straight up nothing exists beliefs? To the point where, okay, what are you going to do when the government asks you to pay your taxes? What are you going to do when you have to purchase food? What are you going to do when you need electricity? Because at some point you will. The world is still in a system that for the majority of the part has death and taxes and bills and dishes, and unless you're completely off the grid, and even if you are completely off the grid, your solar panels, generally I found out recently that solar panels aren't really all green, that they also have to be paid for when they break down with money, not with trade. And we're in the midst of these transitions, but we're not here yet, right? So this aligns with me, this experience that I had with this beautiful group. They're so happy and so in love and just, oh my gosh, they literally explode rainbows like being around them. They're so happy. But I found it cruel that they ignore the world's suffering, mine and yours and anyone's. I found it just really, really cruel, because the suffering I see in you is right in front of me, and it is undeniable. And I am a being of great, profound compassion. So this brings me to, I left the group, by the way. They told me I would. They're like, you're not going to last long here, honey. I'm like, oh, no, I'll be fine. But I think calling me a purveyor of lies was the last, and that suffering doesn't exist. That was kind of my last, yeah. And then I saw a post today from one of them that said, everyone's going to turn to psychics and channels and priests and gurus and old spiritual paths and new spiritual paths for this seeking, when none of it's real. And I'm like, they still should be turning to therapists and shamans and channels and spiritual teachers, both externally and internally. And they should be pointing towards teachers that guide them back to themselves, and that guide them gently and with profound compassion. And they still will. As long as we have bodies, there will be suffering. As long as you have a body, something will cause you to suffer. And that, my friends, is realistic, not nihilistic. So if you are a guru who's spending your time in your enlightenment stage and you're out there in your ashram sending love and light to the world, you have your role, and I honor it. Don't take away our role, the roles of the shamans and the channels and the spiritual teachers, the alchemists. I am a hermetic alchemist. I am on the front lines of pain. You can't take that from me because you think that I am not real, and that earth isn't real, that my thoughts aren't real, and that the pain of the world isn't real. It still makes it valid, and it still requires compassion. And I hope that some of you hear this video today. I'm confused about what you're bringing to the world. You're confused about what I'm bringing to the world. I firmly believe that whatever you bring to the world needs to involve compassion to suffering, because whether you want to see it or not, Earth is still suffering. I am a person who's on the front lines of that. I work with people every day who are suffering in readings and mentorships, and channelings and spiritual teaching classes. I teach spiritual classes about these topics, about how to relieve yourself of suffering. So I have one coming up. I've been working with an ancient group of people called the Hopi, and they're just full of lovely indigenous stories, simple technologies. When I say technologies, guys, in this channeling, they're not going to teach you to go build a rocket ship that's going to get you off the planet or give you some ancient metal technology where you build a robot. When I say technologies, I mean vibrational technologies. I mean technologies of light and of sound, of crystals. And they have these beautiful stories, and I've just been sitting here just quietly. And this is one of the gifts that I love. Whether, the enlightened beings on this planet believe that these stories are real or not, because you guys apparently don't. But I experienced 30 samadhi states, 30 profound states of enlightenment and bliss, right? Comes and goes. Still experience it. But enlightenment is an experience. It isn't anything I can teach you. It's not something that happened to me. Yet, simultaneously, this nihilistic belief that there is no body to be enlightened kind of takes away people's universal law of free will to choose an experience, because the law of chaos, the universal law of chaos, Hermetic alchemists, you'll know what I'm talking about. Laws run this universe, whether it's real or not. And I found that if you're teaching something as a oneness teacher, whatever your role is on this planet, you want to usurp all roles, you want to deny all roles, you want to say what should and shouldn't happen, okay, good. But be compassionate and be aware that what's right in front of your faces, pragmatically speaking, realistically speaking, it doesn't lie. Your bodies are telling you that suffering still exists. Your thoughts are telling you that suffering still exists. You know, when you come down out of your samadhi states, your states of bliss and ecstasy that you're calling enlightenment, and it will end, that state, you will find that the world is indeed suffering. Yes, it's an illusion. Yes, it's a dream. Yes, it's not real. Okay, and now what? It's still there. The true reason why we still have bodies, why we're still here, is to be helpful. And if you can't be helpful, please don't be unhelpful. Please don't be telling the rest of us what we should and shouldn't do, or that our work is a lie, or that we're purveyors of lies. That shit hurts. We're still human beings with thoughts and emotions and sufferings. I am a being who made, after my realization, I started to talk about how everything is real and unreal simultaneously, and how everything deserves compassion. So I'm a being of intense suffering, intense sorrow, and intense love and compassion. That's my particular, that's just my particular flavor. Everybody, some realized beings go through these samadhi states, and then they come back and they're like, I don't even know what was real anymore. But I honor everyone's experience, and I'm a being who's here to be helpful. Now, is everyone else? No, but you have your own roles. And if you deny another's role by saying it isn't real, it's just hurtful. It's just not compassionate, bottom line. So I'm going to be talking with the Hopi, and it's going to be an amazing experience this upcoming Friday. I'll put the link below if you want to join us. And I'm just going to share with you some of these beautiful stories in this channeling about light and sound technologies that alleviate suffering and that open up people to their gifts and abilities and reasons for being here. That's almost every time I use the word suffering, that saw starts at my neighbor's house. So I'm sitting out in my beautiful garden today and just still kind of processing my experience with this lovely group of beings. And I love them, and it was a great learning experience. I had to leave because I will not be called a purveyor of lies, and I will not be told that I shouldn't teach. But it brought me closer to the Hopi, and it brought me closer to this realm of love with them. And I can't wait to share that with you. I can't wait to share these vibration technologies, these sound and light technologies. And they alleviate suffering. They bring you into your own reality to alleviate your own suffering. And those other stories that they have with these technologies that they use that help grow gardens and plants and food, helped bring about rain when there was drought, helped invite rain that also cleanse sorrows, not just in lands and in people's, in their bodies and with their ailments, but in their minds, you know, to bring about what we call a blessing of the waters. So we're going to be discussing that unique technology of blessing of the waters on Friday, and how suffering, whether it's real or not, feels real, and what the technologies can offer from indigenous people, the Hopi, to help you through it. Hope you have a blessed day.